Is Josher Zero here, bringing you all a brand new episode of Horror Theory. Welcome everyone to Horror Theory, the best horror related show here on YouTube. And I'm super excited about our episode here today. We've got a lot of stuff to talk about, so let's get into it. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, I gotta tell you, it's exciting because we've got none other than some news to talk about. We have news, ladies and gentlemen, and it's not in so much the news that we necessarily may want to hear, but we need to hear because we kind of have to talk through this thing. There's been obviously a number of things happening behind the scenes at Undead Labs. The folks, the guys and girls making State of Decay 3, a lot of things going on there. But now, more recently, we've got some things happening in the ecosystem that is Xbox. And so I want to talk through this stuff with all of you because, just hit the mic. My bad, guys. Let me raise my chair here as we're about to lock in here. A lot of things to talk about. I don't know, man. I don't know how I feel about what has transpired with Xbox. And it's tough because growing up an Xbox guy my whole life, it's been challenging, to say the least, to see what I grew up loving in terms of the Xbox console, everything it represented, all of those things. And now Xbox slowly but surely has lost its identity. And it's a really sad thing for me personally. Jeff, what's up, brother? Hey, dude, we got this. I wish you were on the show with me, guys. Jeff is in the chat. He's obviously my co-host on a number of these episodes, a number of these shows. I thought it was very important, though, that we make this video because, or I should say, make this this stream happen because, as I was saying, what's up, Game Satera? Growing up such an Xbox fan, an Xbox guy, to slowly watch your favorite console system, whatever, slowly but surely just like lose value in ways that I did not think was possible. The fall from grace that was, I believe, my favorite console of all time, guys, is the Xbox 360. That is, I believe, the greatest console ever made. I loved it. That period of time when the Xbox 360 released to the world, I'll never forget it because it was around the same time as Gears of War. Gears of War came out in 2006. The summer of 2007, I bought a 360 that I worked the whole summer for. And that 360 just so happened to come with a copy of Gears of War. And from that moment onwards, the rest is history, man, in terms of my love for Xbox, my love of the games, so many of my favorite franchises and just all of those things came from Xbox. And Gears of War, certainly one of them. State of Decay, another one. Here's the thing, guys. Yeah, bro, it's wild. Dude, I'm with you, Jeff. Xbox, I feel slowly over time has lost its way. So let me kind of let's backtrack here to the original Xbox. So when the original Xbox came out, my parents got it for my family as a family console, and I got my first game I ever played on the original Xbox was none other than Medal of Honor Rising Sun. That was the first game I ever played, first person shooter. And I thought the game was okay. It wasn't the greatest game of all time. I thought it was okay. It always has a special place in my heart because of what it meant at the time for me getting into the gaming world. Shortly after getting Medal of Honor Rising Sun, I got Halo 1 and Halo 2 as a bundle. And that's where I really started to see the multiplayer elements of gaming and where this thing could go in the future. And we skip ahead because obviously I played tons of Xbox games. There's a number of games that I really miss that were on the Xbox. There's, I remember playing the original Max Payne 2. Just so many games, man. Then we get to the Xbox 360, which I believe was the greatest console ever made, right? I think that the 360 was something really special for a number of different reasons, but I thought that they made a massive step up from the Xbox to the Xbox 360. I think it was in my personal opinion, the best, I guess you could say continuation of a console in terms of, just consoles coming out. They upped their game in a huge way. And my years of playing the Xbox 360 are some of the best memories I've ever had in gaming. There was something about the ease of adding people to parties and the multiplayer experiences and the games that were, all about earnable items over payable items. There was just so many things about that era of gaming that people nowadays will, unfortunately, you'll never know about. You might hear about some of us who have been playing games for so long. You may hear us talk about it, but you don't get to experience that because what came after the 360, and we talk about even PlayStation. I thought that PlayStation, even though it's always seemed to have more players than Xbox, PlayStation to me didn't really come into its true form until the later consoles. And what I mean by that is I feel like PlayStation, as the consoles have gone, it's gotten better and better in certain areas. Whereas the Xbox has kind of taken steps in the wrong direction. And so I'll give you an example. Let's talk about the Xbox One. So the Xbox One comes out. My mother-in-law now, I was dating my wife at the time. And of course, she was my girlfriend. My mother-in-law, her mom, decided to wait in line to get me the Xbox One for my birthday. And I thought this was a really, really cool story for me because she waited in line. People were offering her thousands of dollars to get her place in line so they didn't have to wait. And she waited. She didn't give up the spot, and she got the Xbox One for me. And I say that to say that when she gave that to me, it was amazing because I was so excited about what was the next, what was Xbox cooking up with this new console. And my first game I ever played on the Xbox One was actually Call of Duty Ghosts. And, I remember, logging in, getting everything set up on the Xbox One, and it just didn't feel the same from the very beginning. It felt more like a computer, or they were trying just a number of different things, right? I just never bought into the Xbox One, and that format would continue into the Xbox Series X, S, and although I do think that we made a step in the right direction with the Xbox Series over the Xbox One, it's still not at the level of what it was for the Xbox 360. The ease of use, all of those things. The games at the time, there was just a lot of things. So it leads us to where we are now with obviously the Xbox Series, which, look, in a way, I believe that they took a step in the right direction. But on the flip side of that, it's just there's been a number of things and decisions I believe that Xbox has made that have really hurt the brand over time. More recently, we could go back to talking about Call of Duty Black Ops 7 and how the AI slop is what people are like dubbing this, was integrated so heavily into a game like Call of Duty and I say heavily, we don't know so much like in terms of gameplay and things of that nature, but like the cosmetic items from the emblems, icons, things of that nature inside of the game, are being AI generated. And so nonetheless, there was this huge emphasis on that. Call of Duty Black Ops 7 just completely takes a major hit, loses the FPS crown to Battlefield 6. And then, of course, Xbox decides, well, you know what? We're going to double down on this. We might not want to be in the console wars anymore. And so we're going to, number one, we're going to make a lot of our big IPs. Now we're going to put them no longer exclusive to Xbox, but on the other platforms, that being specifically PlayStation. We saw this with like games like Gears of War Reloaded. Of course, Call of Duty has always been multi-console, but you get what I'm saying. We saw a number of games that normally were just Xbox exclusives that now are going to, essentially go to the masses or have that opportunity at least, with now it being introduced. These major IPs for Xbox are now going to get a bigger audience because of the 75 million units that were sold for PlayStation, specifically the PlayStation 5, whereas the Xbox Series X and S combined sold like 35 million. So it's nowhere near the magnitude of the amount of consoles that sold for PlayStation, and even that isn't even close to the likes of Nintendo and Nintendo Switch 2 specifically. And so that leads us to a moment in time where now, after we've had all these issues with Xbox, console prices going up, even though they're losing the console war, they have completely conceded. They say, hey, we lost the console wars. We're going to put our games now on multi-platform, and we are also more than likely going to get out of the console wars, and out of the console, development process, right? And so they raise their prices on their consoles to shortly raise prices for the Xbox Game Pass, the best subscription, might I add, in all of gaming. They decide to raise the price of that. And so when we look now at Xbox in the current state it's in, it's pretty rough, right? Well, we had some news come out. And obviously, how this all relates, before I get to the official news, how does this relate to State of Decay and this franchise that, as you guys have heard me pound the table so many times, that I believe State of Decay is the next flagship IP for Xbox. Once, we see what State of Decay 3 can be, I believe it is one game away from becoming a flagship IP, similar to Gears of War, similar to Halo, similar to maybe something like Fable, but one of the heavy hitters for Xbox, I believe, will be State of Decay after this game releases to the world. Well, a lot's riding on State of Decay 3, because if I believe that this is going to be a flagship IP, well, we have to believe that Xbox is going to be in somewhat of a, semi-stable state, somewhat of a locked in, ready to conquer this next generation of gaming. But what we're seeing is people jumping ship or getting fired from the ship. And the people who are replacing those who are at the top have certainly qualifications for specific jobs, but in terms of CEO positions of Xbox is another question that we're going to be talking about here tonight, because the news that came out from Xbox was that Phil Spencer, the CEO of Xbox, for a very, he's been with Xbox for a very long time, guys. Whether he was the CEO or, the bottom of the totem pole of the food chain, so to speak, he worked his way up to the positions of power within Xbox. And I think with good reason, because he had a lot of vision, had a lot of ideas. Some of those landed, some of them didn't. And although I think in certain elements, he helped take Xbox to, certain avenues and directions that a lot of us appreciate. There were other directions that he took the company in that I think when we look back on could be considered the dark ages of Xbox. What led to where we are today could be the ramifications of what Phil Spencer and his direction leading Xbox. And so what happened here? Well, let's talk about the news first, shall we? Because I think this is really important that we talk about this before we give our honest assessment on the big picture here and what this looks like for, Xbox now moving forward. So let me go ahead and let me pull this up here, dude. Okay. There's just so much, dude. So much. Like all the news articles and everything about this, unreal, brother. But what I decided to do, guys, I'm going to take reference from an article that's coming to us from none other than CNBC. And this is an article published by Jordan Navitt over there. Microsoft Xbox chief Phil Spencer retires and replaced by AI executive Asha Sharma. So here we go, guys. Microsoft's head of gaming, Phil Spencer, is leaving the software maker following a 38-year tenure as the company's Xbox business faces increased challenges. Last year, Phil Spencer made the decision to retire from the company, and since then, we've been talking about succession planning. Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella wrote in a memo to employees that was published on Friday, "I want to thank Phil for his extraordinary leadership and partnership." Now, what I'll say about this, guys, is although, there's a lot of backlash right now about Phil Spencer, that doesn't necessarily mean that everything that he did was a total disaster. I think that the problem with what happened within Phil Spencer's tenure as CEO of Xbox was taking on more than what Xbox could chew. So let me put this into context here. What Phil Spencer's mindset was let's buy a bunch of different companies and let's just have a ton of companies that are developing games for us. We're going to recruit and buy out a number of these really great indie development teams and things of that nature. And what we're going to do is we're going to support them to create their, games. And what we're going to do is with Xbox Game Pass, we're going to have this huge amount of games that are being developed and then made, and then we can put it onto Game Pass, which will help Game Pass grow its subscriber numbers and things of that nature. Well, the idea is great on paper. The problem, though, is when you overextend with that, and then a lot of these projects are being put into development hell or a development, complete limbo state, essentially, where the games get greenlit and then 10 years later, they're trying to get this thing made and Xbox pulls the plug after 10 years. Notably, Everwild. Another one, Perfect Dark. You see, guys, the reality is that what I believe is happening at Xbox with these development studios, I have no insider information about this, but this is just personally what I believe in my heart of hearts is what's going on. Okay. Unfortunately, I believe that anytime someone who's working at one of these companies is making progress on, like, say, some type of level design, character design, whatever it is, when they complete something, they need to get it sent up to a higher up at whatever company it is. So let's just say, for example, we work for Undead Labs, and Undead Labs, we're helping to make State of Decay 3. And let's say we finish a new zombie variant, character model, and we want it to get sent up to one of the higher ups at Undead Labs to get approval. Well, that higher up at Undead Labs gets that, and they look at it and they're like, you know what, this looks good. And then they send it off to a higher up at Xbox. And that could also go through a few hands where one person says, okay, the next one says, no, not okay. And then the whole process starts all over again. So what I'm saying is I believe that these games are taking way longer than what they should be. And it's because of improper processes within Xbox with getting things approved. I've said for a long time, guys, on the YouTube channel, I've stated this a lot. I believe that even if we were, say, working at Undead Labs and we wanted to tweet something, we would need to get it approved from a higher up at Undead Labs and then a higher up at Xbox. I believe that Xbox has put a stranglehold over all of these different, not independent, but like, all these different companies that they have bought out and, purchased and things of that nature. And so that's just my personal opinion. I would love to hear some of your guys' insight if any of you know anything about this. That's just what I think's going on. I believe at the end of the day, though, Phil Spencer took on more than he could chew in terms of buying out all these companies, not having proper processes in place, because I believe Phil Spencer is a dreamer. He's got a lot of really good ideas, but the execution of it is not his forte. And so he needed to really put a team in place that had proper processes for getting these games released in a timely manner so that that catalog of Xbox Game Pass would be like a Netflix just within gaming, where it's consistently getting new games. And that just didn't happen. And so now where we are is a bunch of studio closures, companies where the games that they're working on, or games, are being put into a development hell cycle. And a lot of times they may be in a limbo state or a state of no return. And so I think that that was the first major issue with Phil Spencer's tenure. Most notably, though, in terms of the purchases that Phil Spencer was heading up for Xbox and really pushing for, was the acquisition of Activision Blizzard. And I think that this is an interesting talking point, because Phil Spencer, I believe, really pushed hard to get Activision Blizzard, believed that, we get Activision Blizzard, this is going to funnel our catalog of games, that being Xbox Game Pass, in a way where it'll help us sell so many subscriptions of the service, and it'll get people to buy Xboxes and so on and so forth. Once again, he's got this dream. It's an awesome one, but the execution behind it, where once you purchase it, awesome, but what's the game plan to make sure that those games are coming out in a timely fashion, but the level of the games is going up, and these teams are able to work in a way where they're not constantly having higher ups at Xbox breathing down their necks about everything. They're able to create something special and release it to the world in a timely fashion. I would say if you're starting a game, more than likely, unless it's like a GTA 6, you should have like a 5-year window and the game should be out. And then consistent development updates and things of that nature. I think a 5-year window is a pretty good window to get a solid AAA game done. 5 years, guys, with a solid development studio, they should absolutely be able to do that every 5 years, bring out something special. It should not be like Elder Scrolls 6. It should not be like, the amount of games out there, guys, that should already have come out that are not out yet, that got teases years ago and things like State of Decay 3, for example, should absolutely be out right now. But the process is behind the scenes, and it might not be Undead Labs' fault. I think it is a systemic issue within Xbox is what's going on. So Phil Spencer, I say all of those things to say that Phil Spencer decides to step down as the CEO of Xbox after all of this, happens and these really incredible ideas are executed from the purchase, but not executed on the back end, which is the most important part of this entire ordeal when you're purchasing a company, making sure that those processes are in place so that these games can meet deadlines. So that being said, Spencer's exit follows the departures of business development chief Chris Young and GitHub CEO Thomas Dohmke in 2025. Charlie Bell, who had been Microsoft's most high-ranking security leader, switched to an individual contributor role earlier this month. Revenue from video games at Microsoft declined about 10% in the December quarter from a year earlier, a steeper drop than the company expected, while total revenue grew nearly 17%. Microsoft announced an unspecified impairment charge in its gaming business in January. The company made a $75 billion bet to expand its game business with the 2023 acquisition of Activision Blizzard, and it released Call of Duty titles as a cloud service. But current generation Xbox consoles haven't been as popular as Sony's PlayStation or Nintendo's Switch, as Microsoft has shuttered studios working on new games. Look, there's really nothing that I can do in the defense or say in the defense of Xbox with the shuttering of studios outside of it is on you. And it's Microsoft, it could very well be Microsoft as a whole, but I think more specifically Xbox. The processes were not put into place to make sure that companies that Xbox acquired, there's not a process in place where these studios can get things approved in a timely manner, and it just delays these games for so long. And that was the failure of Phil Spencer. Everything else, though, I think on paper sounded so good. It's just the execution. Now, the question that lies in the future is, could we see Xbox with new leadership? Could it change for the better where the processes become better, more efficient? Because when I think about this, I think to myself, well, the new CEO of Xbox has a background in AI. And what I'm getting at is this could turn out to be an unmitigated disaster for Xbox, where we get AI slop in every single game. Or the AI technology could be used in a way where these processes don't need to take quite as long, where you don't necessarily need all these different higher ups at Xbox making sure that things are getting approved, because obviously it can take so long. Maybe there's AI systems that could help these processes get approved quicker. That way, the games can come out sooner, not like in bad states, but where AI could help is refining the experiences in terms of making sure that if there's bugs and glitches and things of that nature, it can pick those things up and obviously let the development team know, like, hey, you need to fix, these are things that are going to be a problem for players, so on and so forth. We can go into a whole thing on that. But anyways, what it brings me to is now the CEO of Xbox, right? So Asha Sharma, who we know very little about, joined Microsoft in 2024 from Instacart. She will now take over for Spencer, becoming CEO of gaming and reporting to Nadella. Until now, she has been president of product in Microsoft's core AI business, which former Meta executive Jay Parikh runs. Before arriving at Instacart in 2021 and serving as operating chief, Sharma spent 4 years as a vice president of product and engineering at Meta and 2 years in marketing at Microsoft. We will recommit to our core Xbox fans and players, those who have invested with us for the past 25 years, and to the developers who build the expansive universes and experiences that are embraced by players across the world. Sharma wrote in a message to Microsoft's gaming employees. She has worked on artificial intelligence products such as Foundry for incorporating AI models into third-party applications. As monetization and AI evolve and influence this future, we will not chase short-term efficiency or flood our ecosystem with soulless AI slop, Sharma wrote. Games are and always will be art crafted by humans and created with the most innovative technology provided by us. So, okay, look. A lot of times, guys, these executives, they tell us what we want to hear. But then on the back end, there's other things happening behind the scenes. So the things that she's saying, I like what I'm hearing. You're not going to fill the games with soulless AI slop. That sounds great, dude. Sounds great. But are you going to do that? Games are and always will be art crafted by humans and created with the most innovative technology provided by us. I like what I'm hearing. It sounds like maybe in her mind, she's thinking we can utilize AI to help with these processes. What I was saying just a moment ago can help with streamlining and like where it helps the developers focus on the actual game and not so much getting, they don't have to worry about all the other intricacies of what goes on behind the scenes from marketing to, approvals and all that stuff. Like maybe AI can help with those processes. Games of Terra Brazil, she never worked in something like this. Yeah, I agree. Look, dude, I mean, the reality is she has not. And as an Xbox fan, the only thing I can do is hope that the future of Xbox is not filled with the AI slop, not filled with tons of AI, technology, but utilized in a way where what she is qualified for in terms of being, and heading up a lot of the AI products and things of that nature for Microsoft, she can utilize AI in a way to help with the processes, help with the procedures behind the scenes. I think that would be great because then maybe an AI agent is what's created to get, to get things approved by, instead of having a higher up at Xbox breathing down these developers' necks. I don't know. Maybe, maybe not, but that's what I'm hoping for. Now, have they shown us any reason to believe that? No, but let's see what happens, especially now that the Call of Duty Black Ops 7 situation happened with the AI slop and everything else. And they're Treyarch, Activision, they're actively saying like, look, it's on us. We're going to be better. We'll see if they are when the new Call of Duty comes out this year, Modern Warfare 4. And if it is still filled with tons of AI slop, then, we know that they're just lying through their teeth. But let's see what happens now, right? Let's see, like the big games that are coming out this year, for Xbox are going to be games like Forza Horizon 6, I believe, Fable, Halo Campaign Evolved, Gears of War E-Day, a new Call of Duty. We have a lot of examples of, are they going to integrate AI slop into their games? We're going to see that with a number of these AAA titles that are releasing this year. So ultimately, let's get back to this because I think that this is important. As monetization and AI evolve and influence this future, we will not. Oh, wait a minute. I already read that. Sharma said Microsoft will renew its commitment to console gaming. Microsoft's original Xbox came out in 2001. Matt Booty, head of Microsoft's gaming studios, will report to Sharma as executive vice president and chief content officer. Together, Asha and Matt have the right combination of consumer product leadership and gaming depth to push our platform innovation and content pipeline forward. And that is what Nadella wrote. So, look, guys, I mean, this isn't a perfect science in terms of we don't know at the end of the day what this is going to do to Xbox. We don't know. We can hope for the best, but I don't know, man. It's scary times at Xbox. Very scary. You would have loved to see, I would have loved to see Phil Spencer kind of his last defining moment within Xbox would be him pushing us out of the dark ages and back into this great like promised land, which is what I believe he had in his head. Like he had visioned what it could be. We didn't get to see that. So hopefully now we're able to see the fruits of the labor that was acquiring all these companies and now seeing these games come to fruition, and Xbox Game Pass can continue to be the best gaming subscription service on the planet. And hopefully it can help Xbox. Because guys, at the end of the day, I'm an Xbox fan and I want to see Xbox succeed, but I'm not going to sit here and tell all of you that everything is okay with Xbox, because the reality is that it's not all okay. And there's a lot of issues, and it leads to a ton of concern for some of our favorite franchises on the planet, specifically State of Decay 3. And of course, guys, as you all know, I have a YouTube channel dedicated to Gears of War, and we're specifically talking about Gears of War E-Day primarily. I've dedicated a YouTube channel to Gears of War. And these are games that are coming from Xbox. And with the ever-changing landscape of what's happening behind the scenes at Xbox, it really raises a lot of question marks, but also a lot of concern. And I think that it's fair to have those concerns because there is a lot of things riding on State of Decay 3. If State of Decay 3 isn't like knocked out of the park and gets poor reception and doesn't do really good from a sales perspective, we will never get another State of Decay after that. It's got to be knocked out of the park. Gears of War E-Day, another title that I personally believe has the opportunity to be the biggest Gears of War title ever made. I believe it'll come to PlayStation. I believe it has an opportunity to be the biggest Gears of War title ever. So there is a lot riding on it. Because in the event that it does not break the mold of being the biggest Gears of War game of all time, and it struggles on PlayStation, struggles in general, doesn't do great sales numbers, we will never get another Gears of War title. State of Decay 3 has the opportunity to not only be the biggest State of Decay of all time, but it also has the opportunity to live on for many more games and become a flagship IP for Xbox, which I believe it absolutely can do that. And it should do that with State of Decay 3. So a lot is riding on Xbox right now. And now you had Phil Spencer jump ship. We don't know if maybe Microsoft told him that it was time to step down. We don't know. But He did. He stepped down, and now we have an AI savant taking over for Xbox. And like I said, I'm concerned about it. At the same time, what would have happened with Xbox if Phil Spencer continued to be the CEO? You know, these processes and stuff weren't already implemented. What was he going to all of a sudden start implementing new processes? I mean, I don't know. Would anything have changed under Phil Spencer? So part of me, even though I'm concerned because, you know, you have an AI executive that's coming in as the CEO of Xbox, and obviously the whole gaming landscape can't stand the AI slop that's happening and all the, you know, issues that are happening in the world of AI. But at the same time, I think that it was time for a new voice, some new voice in the room. And whether that means it's going to be more of a unmitigated disaster or things get improved is yet to be seen. But I think I'm willing to take that chance because we've seen this with Phil Spencer for a while. And now with a new CEO, a new voice, I'm willing to see. Now, what I'm worried about is could State of Decay 3 get canceled all of a sudden? You know, uh, I don't believe that's going to happen, guys. But what I'm saying is those things come. You start thinking about it. Now, Craig Duncan, one of the Xbox bosses, he has made multiple trips to Undead Labs to see State of Decay 3, and he said that there's a lot of progress happening. And you know, they tell us what they want to hear, what we want to hear a lot of times, but we haven't heard from Undead Labs, so that's concerning. Same thing with Gears of War E-Day. You know, we're hearing from, you know, actually, we're really not. We're not hearing a lot, but we are hearing a little bit of things when we are from the coalition. And so that's a lot more promising. But still, we haven't seen gameplay. We haven't seen a new trailer. We haven't seen any of these things. And so there's concern there as well. So at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, the news surrounding Xbox is concerning. Do I believe that it means at the end of the day that State of Decay 3 is in trouble? I don't think that it's in trouble yet. I will tell you that I believe State of Decay 3 is in trouble if it's not at the Xbox Game Showcase in June. That's where I will be concerned. Without a shadow of a doubt, guys. I believe, though, that if we don't hear before the Xbox Game Showcase from State of Decay or Undead Labs, I believe that there will be gameplay shown with a release date, or at least a release time of season, like they did with Fable, like in autumn 2026, where maybe they'll do a fall of 2027, summer of 27. It's interesting, but I think we're getting closer to seeing something from State of Decay 3. I believe it. I feel it. And so ultimately, I am very excited about the future of these franchises as long as that they're, you know, catered to, taken care of. Xbox has a plan, processes in place to help in terms of getting things approved, making sure things are moving along. And maybe this new CEO will do that. Maybe with integrating AI will help with those processes. Who knows? But I believe, guys, that it was time for a new voice to be in the room at Xbox. So I'm going to give Xbox here the benefit of the doubt. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. So ultimately, I'm excited, man, because even though this seems scary, and it is scary, and it sounds bad, and it could be bad. There's something about if you stay too long within like one thing, like a company or whatever, a lot of times you overstay your welcome. And so a lot of times it's better to get rid of that, whatever it is, or leaving it a little bit earlier than later to see real bad things happen. And I'm not saying that real bad things would have happened to Xbox under Phil Spencer if he was still the CEO. But the alternative is we keep kind of going down the same trajectory and nothing really changes. Personally, I would like to see some changes. If Xbox continues to do a, Xbox consoles and things of that, like an Xbox console, I don't know. I want to see what those next consoles would look like. And I know there was a tweet that came out saying that someone tweeted at the new CEO stating that they wanted games like Gears and Fable, Halo to be console exclusives and not multi-platform, which is insanity. But anyways, the CEO, she said, hear that or hear you or whatever. So ultimately, guys, I don't love that at all. Asha Sharma said that. The new CEO of Xbox said that I hear you in relation to exclusive Xbox games. And I completely disagree with this because Xbox, the console exclusivity, I don't love it at all. I think that games should be for everyone. I think there was a time for this. There was a time when gaming was kind of first starting. And even as you got into the original Xbox and or I should say the Xbox 360, even the Xbox One, but at some point this needed to change where we stopped having this exclusivity because what gaming is I believe gaming should be bringing people together, not like separating us. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like we have that within these console wars, specifically with exclusivity. And so, not saying that exclusivity is bad, but I think that we all can see now after all these years, the clear winner of the console wars was the Nintendo Switch. And if you do PlayStation versus Xbox, it's PlayStation and it's by a mile, and it's not going to change anytime soon because people have just gotten to a point where they really like their specific console. They've grown up with it, or they just really like the way that the controller feels or how the interface is, whatever it is. PlayStation is definitely, it's taken leaps and bounds above what Xbox has done. I will say the Xbox Series X, I really like from a graphical perspective. I love that. But everything else, I mean, PlayStation has done a really good job. They just have. You have to give credit where credit's due. And so the fan base and the players playing it, those numbers show that story or that narrative. But ultimately, it concerns me because I just don't want to see console exclusivity anymore. Because two of my favorite games, guys, Gears of War and State of Decay, both of them are console exclusives to Xbox. But I really believe that if you put those on multi-platform, so you put them on PlayStation, obviously on PC, I believe it broadens those fan bases by a very wide margin, making them much larger than they are currently to this day. And I just think that's a good thing. I think if these franchises grow, well, the more games we get, the bigger the teams get, all that stuff. I just think it's good overall as an ecosystem. That's one thing that she did say that absolutely concerns me right now, specifically for Gears of War E-Day, because we know it's coming out this year. And of course, for the longer term, more than likely, State of Decay 3. I just don't want to see these games be still continue to be console exclusives. I want them to go multi-platform. And that's been my hope. And I'm just hoping that we, see that here. Maybe they can create some new IPs altogether, and those become console exclusives. But the games that have been out for a while, or the franchises that have been around for a while, it's time to show PlayStation some love. Let them play as well. It'll help us. It grows the fan base. It grows the ecosystem and grows the franchise. Don't be selfish now. Like, let's grow this thing so that we get further continuations of the franchises moving forward. I hope all that makes sense, guys. And I really appreciate all of you who've been joining these live streams, who have been joining and following in on the journey of State of Decay 3 and horror games specifically. All the people who have been joining as members, all of our new members, guys, I really appreciate all of you. Everyone who just leaves a thumbs up, subscribes to the channel, you're helping us grow every single day, and it's very, very appreciated. I cannot tell you the love that we've seen, as well as the criticism we've seen from people on Horror Theory about ways that we can improve, things that we're doing awesome. And I'm in this for the long haul, guys, when it comes to State of Decay 3 and just putting a spotlight on horror games. And obviously the first one of the year that's really going to be coming here very soon is Resident Evil Requiem. And I just want to put spotlights on these games, but I also think it was really important to make this channel primarily a State of Decay 3 channel, because State of Decay we are passionate at Horror Theory about State of Decay as a franchise. We want nothing more than to see the growth of this franchise. And I felt that it was important because we got so much feedback from all of you that you wanted to see us make more State of Decay 3 videos. You wanted us to talk more about this, have open conversations with you guys, whether it's through live streams, in the comments section, whatever it is. And we want to have real conversations about State of Decay 3, echoing the things that we want into existence within the game, and make this the biggest State of Decay of all time, so that State of Decay stays around for the long haul. That is, without a shadow of a doubt, guys, the plan. That's what we've been wanting. That's what we've been pushing for. And ultimately, I believe that we will get there. And it's with all of you. The support means the world to us. It helps us keep the shows going and all of that stuff. So any support you guys give us, we are greatly appreciated. But even if you guys could, do me a favor, leave a thumbs up, subscribe if you're new, stay positive, just keep grinding. And as always, I will see you guys all in the next one.